I'm Catherine Arndt, the Chief of the VLGA Connect Studio. Welcome to today's episode, brought to you by the VLGA, your councillor support network and the national broadcaster on all things local government.
Hello everyone, welcome to VLGA Connect and the weekly TGU panel discussion on all things local government, primarily in Victoria, but there's a little bit happening outside of our borders as well this week, which we'll get to very shortly. I'm going to say hello to Tony Rownick from Hunt & Hunt Lawyers, who are our sponsors for TGU. G'day, Tony.
Great to join you, Chris and Julie, and we've been having some summer weather almost the last day, so I've been enjoying that.
Yes, I've noticed you're looking a little bit casually attired there, Tony, on a casual Friday. And Julie Reid, lovely to have you here too.
Hi, Chris. Great to be here. Hi, Tony.
Lots to talk about as always, and I think we've got a few extra viewers after our Operation Sandon episodes in recent times. Terrific to see so many people joining us both on YouTube and on the VLGA's podcast channel. I'm not sure we've got much to add yet to Operation Sandon. Anything in the last couple of days that's come to your notice, Tony?
No, I think the sector representative organisations are busy working their way through the document. I think MAV might have, I saw something on LinkedIn, I think might have made released a statement. I know VLGA are intending to do that as well. And so far we haven't heard from government in terms of, anything formal around which of the recommendations they're accepting, what how they propose to pursue that.
And of course, that might take some time because there's a lot in it, as we discussed, 34 recommendations, some of them quite far-reaching. Same mail from you, Julie?
Yes, no, nothing else, but interesting to watch just what's unfolding in the planning space anyway at the moment, where there's been various decisions around powers being taken away in relation to housing. Yes. So I'm drawing a conclusion that there could be some kind of link there, and certainly is in the same vein as what has been talked about in the recommendations in the report. So I'm starting to draw those conclusions.
So I had this one well down the list, but we might pull it up, seeing as you've gone there. Stonington, the latest example of a council which says it's been sidelined by this fast-tracked process that the government runs on particular matters that are, I guess, meeting some sort of threshold for economic recovery. This one is about the Cabrini Hospital redevelopment. Julie, you've had a look at this?
Yeah. And look, I'm not surprised at this though, Chris, because there have been major developments that have been called in by the state government to deal with, and things like this kind of proposal, it's not unusual. It's not unusual. But obviously, for the Malvern residents, this is huge for them. And, obviously they're furious at the decision to bypass the city of Stonington because they want to be able to have a say in, whether that goes ahead or not, etc. Now, the council will be consulted, no doubt, as part of that development. You would hope that would be the case, because major developments, they normally will consult with council, but it does push out the community's ability to be able to have a say in how that might potentially impact on them. So, so this is a new building, and it's in a neighbourhood where there's a lot of Edwardian era housing. It's a very sensitive area, and will be connected to the existing hospital buildings via a link bridge, etc. And it's going to include a 350 space underground car park. Now, so it's a big development, big expansion, big car park. One
heritage overlay
area. One should say that the community should really have a say in how that it actually is designed and developed if it goes ahead. So anyway, look, I think what happened was Cabrini actually lodged a Section 96A application to the Planning Minister to rezone the wider hospital area, making it a special use zone. This is what happened. And it removed the council as responsible for that site. So that's actually what's happened. And while the council did make a submission, and particularly made the point of saying, well, we've got the resources to be able to handle this kind of application. That was rejected.
Yeah.
Obviously.
Yes, I see the Mayor, Jamie Classaris, described it as premature and in poor taste, going straight to the Planning Minister. Tony, are we taking notice of these more because of Operation Sandon and the planning implications, do you think, or have these been going on?
I think they're part of a consistent theme prior to, and look, I act for both Cabrini Hospital and Stonington Council at times, not on this matter, but I think the hospital has simply utilised what is, clearly this facilitation program is designed for. If you actually go to the development facilitation program itself, there's a criteria under health for hospital redevelopments. There's a threshold of 30 million. So developments of hospitals over $30 million in value can go directly through to the minister. Now, this is a development that far exceeds that, 220 million, in fact. So can't really blame a private entity here, a hospital run by a Catholic private hospital run by the Cabrini sisters, from utilising that process that the government has explicitly set up to, I guess, facilitate a faster, more efficient process for what it sees as critical community infrastructure like a hospital. So I think if the council's agreed, they should, talk to the planning minister and the process that's available to private entities here. And it's just simply part of the background, the environment we have at the moment. Increasingly, there are options for applicants to bypass, to a degree, councils on major projects, and that's not a new thing, but it's the criteria to access those programs, I think, has expanded substantially, both in legal terms but also in the practical interpretation of those terms, I think, over recent years, and particularly, I think, with this planning minister.
Yeah, and I seem to be seeing more headlines with the words councils and sidelined in them, not just in Victoria, I might add. There's a bit of this going on in New South Wales and in Queensland at the moment. But there's another one out in the West where, according to a report from news.com.au this week, which was apparently an exclusive report, it's been more widely reported now, 10 councils are caught up in this traditional owners agreement that they did not know was coming. And Tony, it sounds like there's some real fears here of some significant decisions being taken out of council's hands.
Yeah, so certainly I think where there's a lack of information that's being shared with affected communities, and in this case affected councils, and there are, as you say, 10 councils, then there will be, fears and uncertainties and confusion as to what this might mean. And we've seen this week the Mayor of West Wimmera, Tim Meyer, come out with some concerns about, how much it's going to cost councils. We've seen the Beloke Mayor, Alan Getley, come out with concerns about a lack of, updates from the state government, and Kevin Irwin, who's the Northern Grampians Mayor, saying, we only just found out about this very recently. It seems that the state Victorian government has signed an agreement with the Indigenous landowners or Indigenous community in those 10 councils that was signed in October 2022. It's part of the Victorian Traditional Owner Settlement Act 2010 arrangements. But having signed that document in October 22, it seems that at least some of these councils are only becoming aware through an upload onto an internet page, the Vic Government First Peoples State Relations website in July of this year. So there clearly, there seems to be that kind of just lack of information flowing to councils. This is the fourth of these type agreements since 2010. So they do obviously, they are sort of slow to conclude. And this process has taken quite some time. So I imagine that there's been consultation with councils along the way, but it seemed to have perhaps dropped the ball at the last moment in terms of informing council of the conclusion of that process. And now there's a need to, I guess, inform those communities as to, what are the implications? What does it mean going forward? And perhaps it's not as bad as some people are fearing, or as widespread in terms of the implications as some people are fearing. And it's just a matter of, bringing that information to the table.
Yeah, so you say this was the fourth. So the three previous ones, I'm assuming, I don't know where they were, the sky hasn't fallen in those three areas that I'm aware of?
No, well, that's right. Look, to be fair, it's well known that cultural heritage management plan processes take a long time, and there are a lot. And I've been involved in developments that have been, there've been 2-3 year holdups while cultural heritage management plan processes get underway. And I think that we would like to see some more efficiencies in those processes. But we are still in the early days of, these regulations taking effect. And so understandably there are concerns about what the implications are. And until there's a better dialogue with councils, we won't really know.
Do you have a take on this, Julie?
Yeah, Chris, I think I'd probably just recommend that councils across Victoria engage with the state government, and maybe the first port of call there is into LGV, to talk about these agreements, because my understanding is there will be agreements across Victoria. So this is one that has now been signed off. There will be others. So I think that councils need to proactively now engage with the state government and say, can you give us an update on the agreement within our particular area? Can we get across it? Can we understand what's being negotiated, etc.? Because I think if it's not going to be forthcoming from the state government and shared with the council, then they need to follow that up. So, because I think councils need to prepare for the obligations that are going to be part of these agreements that are going to impact on the way that they operate. They need to understand those costs, those funding challenges that might come forward as a result of that, and prepare for that. So there's no doubt that there's legislation. We know that there's a commitment to treaty that the government has. So we do need to, I think, be proactive in this space and demonstrate council's understanding of what those legislative requirements are actually saying that council needs to do. So it's a bit of a shame that there's been a lack of sort of that negotiation or consultation or communication with councils at the last minute, and now councils have to scramble to put this all into place, which means probably changing procurement policies. There's a change in maybe employment practices, for example, potentially, I don't know, but there's going to be some knock-on effects that the councils are then going to have to try and address practically.
Okay, as you say, time to be proactive, knowing that there are more coming. But it does sound like on the communication front, someone's dropped the ball somewhere here for 10 councils to not know that this was coming.
Bit of a shame, really, Chris.
Yeah. All right. Another court story that we talked about a few weeks ago, the challenge in the Supreme Court against Yarra Ranges Shire and the consideration of their urban design framework. Mr. Darren Dixon has brought that action and has had his day in court this week, Tony.
Yeah, just getting my head around this. I think an age report that's come out today even about this, and maybe even a one-day trial held yesterday, I believe. But Darren Dixon's a regular speaker on some of these internet forums on I think he goes as a common law expert of some sort, but he's taken Yarra Ranges Shire Council to the Supreme Court over two aspects: public consultation on a plan for Monbulk, and also in relation to the closure of the public gallery in the council chamber. And at that trial, I believe a number of council staff attended and gave evidence about having felt unsafe at a time when, there was a large body of people in the public gallery who were apparently, quite vocal, and some of them expressing language about that it's been described as conspiracy theories and such. So the trial is completed, as I understand. We're waiting a decision, and hopefully we can get a timely decision over the next month or two coming out on that matter, because I think, it'll be closely watched by the community.
I thought you might have said a day or two or a week or two, given it was only a 1 day, but you're thinking a month or two.
There are cases where we have quick announcements of decisions, but typically the judge goes away to write up a decision. A decision like this will be subject to scrutiny, potential appeal to the Court of Appeal. So I would think they'll take some care in preparing the decision. In the meantime, of course, Yarra Ranges Shire Council has opened its meetings, as I understand it, and so it's a bit of a moot point about whether it was appropriate to close the gallery, but I think it'll be still meaningful across the sector to understand what the decision is and the reasons for the decision.
What about that urban design framework document, Tony? I understand they're due to vote on that next month. Are they obliged to wait for the judge's decision there? They haven't been injuncted, have they?
No, I don't believe there's been any injunction or certainly not an injunction granted. And it's quite onerous to meet the criteria for the granting of one of those mandatory injunctions that prevents things occurring prospectively. But I don't believe there's any basis for council to pause at the moment.
And it's interesting, Chris, because I think it was suggested that the urban design framework was some kind of secretive plot by the council to change the whole look and feel of Mumboldt. Well, it's interesting because urban design frameworks are regular types of documents that most councils will prepare, and it's a response to to proper strategic planning principles, and it would provide good decision-making framework for the council in terms of built form in that particular centre. So it's a regular type of document that councils would prepare, and there was all sorts of suggestions going on about 3-story development, etc. However, the council already had an existing overlay that allowed 3-story development anyway. So I don't know what the big fuss is about around the UDF, and I think it's really unfair for them to suggest that it's some kind of secretive plot because it's a standard type of approach. And it's in actual fact, there are obligations that the state set on councils to have a look at things like 20-minute neighbourhoods and make sure that there's greater densities potentially in townships than outside of townships, etc. So look, from a planning point of view, it seems that it should go ahead. Interesting.
All right, we'll wait for that decision and report back when there's news. Greater Geelong back in the news this week. The third councillor, I think I'm right in saying, in this term has resigned. This time the former mayor, Stephanie Asher, is moving out of the municipality for work and family juggling reasons and has stepped down effective last weekend.
Certainly, laudable sort of service to local government. I think the second longest serving mayor in Greater Geelong for nearly 3 years, and about six or more years as a councillor, Stephanie Asher. So understandable. She's career commitments. I think she works in Melbourne, and she's moving out of. I think she's an Ocean Grove person. She's moving out of the Greater Geelong area, but quite a few personnel changes fairly late in the term for the city of Greater Geelong.
And of course, there'll be a count back, I assume. We haven't seen details of that yet, as far as I'm aware. But it's really interesting to observe. It's also getting late in the terms in New South Wales and Queensland, and we've had some resignations of councillors in those states. And they've got these provisions invariably where in Queensland, they invite nominations from the community according to some criteria to nominate to fill the position, and the council appoints the new councillor. And in New South Wales, in the case of, I think it was Port Macquarie Hastings, they are seeking permission from the minister to carry a vacant position until the next election to avoid the cost of having to run an election process. We don't have either of those provisions in Victoria, of course, Tony or Julie.
No, we don't. And what strikes me is that with these recent resignations in Geelong and in other councils, but particularly in Geelong, it seems to me to have the capacity, what I know about that council, and have, family members there and quite close to that area, the capacity to change very much the political dynamic on that council. And this resignation is another one that, depending on who the replacement councillor is and what sort of mindset they bring, it could well change the political dynamic somewhat of Geelong Council.
I don't know if either of you watched the last meeting where they debated the overseas trip to Turkey, South Korea, etc. Very interesting dynamic in that chamber. And as you say, Tony, a change of one person around the table can have an impact on that whole dynamic, of course, again.
Chris, there's a message in all of this as well. Councillor Asher is talking about how, she's obviously got a very senior job as a project director. It raises the question of how the demands are faring out on councillors in these particular roles. Are you on tap 24 hours a day, 7 days a week because of social media now? Are there far more expectations as a councillor now than what there's ever been? I think this is a topic for a good conference for councillors, maybe something that the VLGA can pick up, but there's obviously councillors dropping like flies. And a lot of them are talking about this, the demands of the job.
Exactly the point. I was going to support you there, Julie, that many of them are saying they're no longer able to devote the time because of other pressures, and a few of them have said that the demands on the councillor role have increased substantially in recent years. It would be good to understand why people feel that is the case. Perhaps that's for another day.
I think.
So that's a major announcement on the councillor side of things. On the CEO side of things, Phil Cantalon at Frankston has been announced as having an extension or a new contract of 3 years that takes effect from September. Phil, of course, has been there for a while and will be there for likely another 3 years now.
Yeah, it's great news, Chris. So Phil's doing a great job down there at Frankston, keeping things ticking over really well. Good to see some stability for Frankston for a while. I think probably that's what they've needed. Steering the ship with that stability, I think, is probably great in particular for the staff, but also, there's some continuity there with the councillors, etc., letting them through the next election. So, so great news for Phil.
Well done, Phil. Now, some of the stories from interstate, one that's getting quite a bit of discussion online, certainly through the local government news roundup social media channels, is the termination of the contract of the CEO at Yarra Shire Council in Queensland. And I raised this one because it's really interesting. This small shire has had now, I think, 5 people in either a permanent or an acting basis in about 18 months. And this CEO, Kate Rozier, arrived there less than 3 months ago and has been dismissed while under probation. So there's obviously a lot of issues within that council and that council organisation.
Yeah, I didn't know that history you just explained about, lots of difficulties filling this position and finding a permanent person to fill the position. But it's an understood process that there are probationary periods. We've all, I think, in the course of our careers employed people where it didn't work out. Sometimes you think everything's right in the interview process and appointment, and we need that probationary period just for both parties, the employer and employee, to work out whether it's whether it's right to move to a permanent role before there become, significant financial implications, particularly for the employer, of terminating the arrangement. So I think if the councillors have come to that conclusion, which appears they have, that this isn't the right person for the long term, then plaudits to them for moving quickly and decisively in the probationary period, rather than costing the community and drawing it out. But not sure what's happening there at Oracoon. If, as you say, there's been a number of attempts to fill the position and they haven't been successful, it does suggest something more significant, more underlying, doesn't it?
Yeah, some broader implications. And you can only imagine, Julie, what it's like to work in that organisation with that air of uncertainty hanging over it.
I know, Chris. And how are people going to be attracted to that job now, knowing what the past history is of a number of CEOs not lasting there? Would you actually say, okay, well, I'm going to go and give this a try? So they might find as they go along, it's going to be harder and harder for them to find someone to appoint in that role.
And already difficult or challenging, I would think, being where it is up on Cape York, remote sort of location. It would be a challenge, no doubt. I want to swing across to Western Australia and the city of Bunbury, where there's been what I've called the Bunbury bun fight over an acknowledgement of country wording change and some comments that have been labelled as offensive made by some councillors in the debate on this. Some councillors opposed the change of wording, one saying because she was not in a position to be able to respect all people within the Aboriginal community. Yeah,
look, I think I'd condemn these comments. I think they are offensive. I think that we know that there are, law-abiding and non-law-abiding, if we can use those terms, good and bad people in every race, in every ethnicity, in every community. And, comments that, seek to tar one race or community group or ethnicity with a particular, universal trait. I mean, that's a racist comment to me. We just don't make them. I'm not sure if the person intended that implication, but certainly to me, I'd condemn comments like that, and I think they have been by the majority of councillors and the community there in Bunbury, and rightly so.
Yeah, I think there were 3 councillors voted against it. The councillor in question, the one in particular, was Betty McCleary, who did say that she could have chosen her words better when she said she couldn't support it because not all members of that community were pure, was her exact wording. But she sort of doubled down when she tried to explain what she meant by that. Pleasingly, we haven't had those sort of arguments around acknowledgement of countries in Victoria that I'm aware of, Julie.
No, not at all, Chris. I was surprised to see this. Hopefully this is just a one-off.
Let's go down to Tasmania. We hinted last week that there might be a suspension coming of Dorset Council because the minister had said he was actively considering it. He's followed through this week as of Wednesday and suspended the councillors there for what looks like being at least 7 months while a board of inquiry process is run into allegations of governance failings. Where have we heard this before, Tony Ronick?
Yeah, I'm about as surprised at this news as, learning the sun rose in the east this morning. We talked about it last week as the minister sending it with, I think Nick Street was his name, if I remember.
That's correct, yes.
He's sending a, show cause notice to the councillors as to why they oughtn't be removed from their positions. It seemed, I think we said at the time, the writing looked like it was on the wall. Well, the councillors have been suspended, commissioners have been appointed, and no surprises here. And I guess the government will lay out a path moving forward in terms of what happens beyond that. Did you say 7-month period?
Yeah, they're estimating 7 months. So 2 people have been appointed to a board of inquiry to fully investigate those allegations. A commissioner has been appointed in the interim, with the councillors having been suspended. Julie, probably not surprised to hear that the mayor and the councillors disagree with what's happening here. In fact, I saw some comments from the mayor accusing the minister and the department of listening to some very vocal, angry ratepayers that he's suggesting are not representative of the wider community.
Yeah, and that's interesting, Chris, because you do get that. You will get councillors speaking out to that effect in these kind of cases. But at the end of the day, there's not much. There's not much that they can do.
Yeah.
They're just going to have to just watch this now and see how it plays out and see what is uncovered.
Yeah.
Which will be interesting.
All right, let's get to our picks of the week. Although I did have a couple. No, I'll hold those. A couple of international stories that we'll touch on in a moment. We'll start with your pick of the week here, Julie. This is a very important subject.
Well, actually, I've got two.
Oh, have you?
So
okay. Oh, yes. You've sneaked another one into the list.
I've snuck another one in today. The first one is the Local Governance Association, which represents councils in England, have put Councillor Sean Davies, the LGA chair, out there at a conference to present to their central government over there the fact that the LGA are going to prepare a white paper for a new local government act in England. And why I was interested in this was that the theme of it is make it local. It's a make it local campaign. And Councillor Sean Davies talks about, in particular, wanting going forward a very strong central local partnership. So the only thing I can suggest is maybe that partnership between central government and local government in England is not working maybe as well as what it should do. And he's also saying that he wants the full potential for people, places and our planet to be borne out at this with this Make It Local campaign. He wants a new local deal, a new local government act from local government for local communities, which is a really interesting emphasis that he puts on this. And I'm sure the link will be in the show notes because there's a little video which is really powerful. He wants to work with government for a trusted, valued and equal relationship with local government. To me, very, very clear views that it's not a trusted and valued and equal relationship with local government at the moment in England, and it needs to change. And that's what he's advocating for, which was really powerful. So there you go.
Interesting. All right, we'll check that out.
Yep. And the next one, I heard about this earlier this week. It actually perplexed me, but it was really an interesting move by a French mayor from the city of Béziers in France, obviously. They are spending $89,000 a year in cleaning up dog poop across their city, and they have had a gut full of it. They are sick of it. The mayor is sick of it. He's saying that this dog poop is actually impacting on the historic town centre. It's damaging its image, etc., etc. They've got this laissez-faire attitude towards picking up the dog poop over in France, apparently. And so what he's done is he's introduced a new policy where all dogs now need to have a passport and they need to have their DNA tested. And people will need to make sure that when they're walking around, they have their dog passport in hand. If they don't have a dog passport to prove that the dog's had a DNA test, then they'll be fined $43. And if the poop is found, then the council will test it, and they will send the bill for the cleanup to the owner of the dog, which is $136. They're like I said, they've taken this to an extreme now.
They sure have.
They're fed up. They're spending too much money, and they're now, this is the way that they're going to get their money back for the cleanup. So that's a new one, Chris.
Great story, Julie. And if JLF wouldn't mind putting this up on the screen, when you open that story, which is from msn.com, there's a picture of a very mournful looking pup And the caption says, "This mayor, tired of poop on his streets, is making dogs get passports." I thought it was a story about a dog being mayor. When you read that, but anyway,
Chris and Julie, how long is it going to be before we see, a pack of dogs invade the gallery at a council meeting in France and demand, our right to privacy has been invaded?
Possibly not, but you just might have come up with a plot for a new Disney movie. Tony, your pick of the week. This one's a bit poignant, out of Ballarat.
Yeah, I wanted to pay tribute to the late Rob Mcvitty. Rob recently passed away, died last week. In fact, age 70. Spent 27 years as the Ballarat Town Hall keeper. It's a formal job, but I actually remember Rob well when you came to the town hall to have a meeting. He would often be the one that would greet you, and had many conversations with Rob, but he would take tours around the town hall. It was his job to, carry out the flag for ceremonies. He oversaw the bell ringers, of course, in the Ballarat Town Hall, and would, set up rooms for events. And, what a great time period, 27 years. And the Ballarat Courier, who had an article in there about Rob, as I say, well known in the community, went through their photo archives to find some pictures of Rob. And the comment was that there weren't a lot of pictures, but the ones they found, he was always in the background. He was, helping or overseeing. Yeah. He was holding an umbrella, or he would be, holding some notes for a mayor who was giving a speech, or, often he was standing in the rain while something was happening, rarely in the spotlight, but was really a major part of council operations. And couldn't probably put it better than Evan King, the current CEO at Ballarat, who said, Rob was the town hall, and the town hall was Rob. So, real part, closing of an era with the long-serving Ballarat Town Hall keeper in Rob Mcvitty. And I wonder whether council, I'm sure they will seek to fill that position, but what enormous shoes to fill. Yes. And, our thoughts go out to Rob's family and to just the whole, I'm sure the Ballarat council community are mourning too, for someone who was such a part of their daily, life for nearly 30 years.
Yeah, our condolences, but also, celebration of a marvellous contribution and career. I feel like we should stop it there, but I did have two stories that I just wanted to throw in. One that I'm sure you'll enjoy, Julie, out of Thurrock Council in England, where that council is effectively bankrupt because of investment decisions, and it's now emerged through leaked documents that a lot of the money that they were giving to this businessman that runs solar farms actually went to yachts, a private jet, etc. They're trying to sell those solar farms now. They're not worth as much as they thought they would be, and they've still got a £200 million black hole. This is extraordinary, Julie.
Oh, I know. I just despair with these kind of stories. And, you've just got to look at the picture of this guy who's gained millions of pounds, and you'll no doubt put this up on the website as well, because you just go, really? Cheating the council out of that amount of money,
it's extraordinary, isn't it? It really is.
655 million they invested, £1 million. Whoa. Yes. And they've got no audit. They had an audit commission that applied across the England or across the UK, and the government in its wisdom got rid of that. And I wonder whether they'll be looking all the way across to Australia and our audit and risk committee process, because one would think that that's the sort of investment that would be up for a lot of scrutiny from an audit and risk committee.
I would think so.
Served on some of these. I'm sure you'd say, where's our £655 million gone? I think we might want to check that out properly.
Yeah, absolutely.
They're saying it was approved by the finance team and the auditor. I just can't believe that could have happened. I'm just perplexed. I was shocked.
So there's a lot more to come out of this, and few people implicated in that decision-making process. So I suspect it's not the last time we'll talk about it. And I just wanted to mention this one, which got a lot of attention over what's called X now, formerly Twitter. Elon Musk put up a big flashing X sign on the top of his company headquarters building in San Francisco on the weekend. The council's building compliance area received I think it was 24 complaints over the weekend alone. The building inspectors were denied access to the building twice to have a look at the installation of the sign. By early this week, the sign was taken down, but it's just another example of Elon Musk butting heads with San Francisco City Council, and I can see you both shaking your heads.
But look, it just goes to show that even if you're Elon Musk, you're not exempt from the requirements,
Very true.
So, good on them.
So it's probably good. Is it good to see that a billionaire isn't beyond the reach of, in this case, the local law, but maybe there's another billionaire in the States who might be worrying about the reach of the law at the moment.
Could well be.
And, that's good customer service. Can I just say that they've responded and they haven't worried that it's Elon Musk, and it's good customer service to go and follow it up based on complaints. So well done.
Someone shared a picture of this sign flashing and what have you, and it's right next to an apartment building with apartments and windows, and you can imagine what those people felt last weekend when that went up. Anyway, and the other thing I read was that it was weighed down by sandbags, but nobody could actually get up there to actually look and see how well installed it was.
God.
All right. Let's draw a line there. That's been another big week of TGU. Thank you, Tony. All the best to you, and we'll talk to you next week.
Thank you. Thanks, folks.
And Julie Reid, thank you. Always good to have you here.
Thanks, Chris. Great to be here again.
That's TGU from VLGA Connect, sponsored by Hunt and Hunt Lawyers. We'll be back again next week with more, and keep an eye on your VLGA Connect channel for more from our Local Leaders series. People are really enjoying these chats. The latest one that's been released is with Isabel Tolhurst, the Mayor of the Borough of Queenscliff, and we've got more where that came from, so stay tuned, and we'll see you again soon. Bye for now.